We all know that strange feeling of standing in an empty building that's usually buzzing with life, and how instantly eerie it becomes. For most of us, it happens when we're working late at the office or slipping into or out of an apartment complex after dark. But for some places, that eerie atmosphere isn't temporary, it's their permanent state. They've outlasted their purpose, and now they linger in silence, forgotten by time, yet carrying a strange, haunting beauty. In this video, we're exploring some of the most incredible abandoned places and objects from around the world. Number 15. Gui Island. When the fishermen abandoned Gui Island off China's coast in the early 1990s, nature saw an open invitation and took over like a green tidal wave. And it proves that man-made objects can never stand in front of Mother Nature. Today, if you go there, you'll see moss and vines have completely engulfed the crumbling homes, giving the place an unreal fairy tale glow. Ironically, the fishing industry collapsed because it became too successful. The waters were overfished, leaving the families with no future. What's chilling is how many houses still contain personal belongings, furniture, dishes, even children's toys, frozen in time, hidden behind walls of greenery. It only took about 30 years for this transformation to happen, but it looks like the island has been swallowed up for centuries. No one lives here permanently anymore, but curious tourists wander its leafy, abandoned streets. Gui Island now feels less like a ghost town and more like a living, breathing work of art, crafted by the hands of Mama Nature herself. Number 14. Ho Thi Tien Water Park. Just outside Hue, Vietnam, the dragon still watches over Ho Thi Tien Water Park, even though nobody's paid to see it in years. When it opened in 2004, the park barely looked ready. A few small rides sputtered to life, and a giant dragon aquarium filled with exotic fish was the centerpiece. They even stocked a moat full of live crocodiles to complete the spectacle. But visitors quickly realized the magic wasn't finished. And worse, there wasn't much else to do. Disappointment spread faster than the jungle vines that now choke the walkways. By 2008, the doors were locked for good. Nature wasted no time stepping in where tourists once wandered. Trees have cracked through the concrete, moss has swallowed the walls, and the dragon's glassy eyes stare blankly over a kingdom that fell apart before it had a chance to live. Somehow, even abandoned, the place holds a kind of accidental beauty that keeps the curious coming back. Number 13. Church of Decay. In the quiet town of L'Église, which is located in Belgium, the crumbling shell of what's now called the Church of Decay holds on against time. Built on ground that had seen churches rise and fall since the 12th century, this version, finished in 1756 and expanded in 1895, was meant to last. Dry rot had other ideas. The newer sections decayed fast, spreading sickness into the old stones. A massive restoration in 1972 brought some hope, but an earthquake in 1983 cracked that dream apart. Parts of the church briefly reopened, but structural concerns forced the doors shut again for good by 1999. Now rot has reclaimed everything. The Romanesque tower still stands proud, but inside the floors are warped and the walls are bruised with damp. Nature has started to peel back the history, one brick at a time. It's not just a ruin, it's a reminder that even the strongest foundations can crumble when the earth shifts beneath them. Nothing lasts forever. Number 12. Terra Rouge Steelworks. Now, what's left of Terra Rouge in Luxembourg feels like an iron skeleton frozen mid-collapse. In the 1870s, this place was alive with fire and steel, pulling iron ore from the blood-red soil of the South and turning it into the backbone of an entire country's economy. Workers filled the town that sprouted around it, drawn by the endless hum of machines and the promise of steady pay. But no boom lasts forever. By the 1970s, the mines ran dry, and Terra Rouge fell silent almost overnight. They stripped the machinery and sold it off, but the bones stayed. Today, the rusted towers still claw at the sky, a monument to ambition and industry turned obsolete. Plants creep up the walls where furnaces once roared, and the wind whistles through abandoned corridors. 40 years of rain, sun, and frost couldn't fully erase what was built here. Even decaying, Terra Rouge stands tall, a stubborn giant that remembers when it ruled the landscape. Number 11. Testing facility in the Caspian Sea. The Soviets built a strange and imposing structure off the coast of Dagestan in the Caspian Sea. It wasn't just another offshore platform. This facility served as a top-secret site for testing experimental missiles and torpedoes. Stretching over 15,000 square feet and standing 50 feet tall, it once housed military crews who lived and worked there full-time. But by the 1960s, the enormous cost of maintenance no longer made sense. Gradually, the facility was abandoned, left defenseless against the slow, relentless battering of the Caspian waves. Every passing year chips away more steel and concrete. The structure, once a symbol of power and innovation, now looks like a forgotten relic from a distant era. It remains off-limits to visitors, partly because of the obvious dangers posed by its decay, but also because the ghosts of its Cold War past still seem to linger. One day, it will finally collapse into the sea, erasing the last physical trace of its existence. Number 10. Holland Island. Once home to almost 400 people, Maryland's Holland Island has been nearly erased by the sea. In the late 19th century, settlers built homes without realizing they were practically on borrowed land, fragile, and without serious protection from erosion. Signs of trouble began early, with the first buildings succumbing to rising waters by 1914. Desperate attempts were made to save the island, but seawalls and barriers couldn't hold back nature's slow assault. One by one, residents fled, and by 1922, the last stubborn soul left for the mainland. For decades, a single two-story house stood defiantly, teetering at the edge of collapse. In 2012, a storm finally swept the last house into the Chesapeake Bay, leaving nothing behind but scattered memories. Holland Island didn't just disappear overnight. It was devoured, piece by piece, by the relentless tide. Today, its ghostly story stands as a sobering warning about the power of nature and the impermanence of human ambition. And it's just one. There are tons of islands like this. Number 9. Spirit of Sacramento. Not far off Garden Highway in Sacramento, California, sits the rusted remains of the Spirit of Sacramento, a battered riverboat that once held dreams bigger than its small frame. Built in 1942 as the PAA, it served the Army Corps of Engineers before catching the eye of none other than John Wayne. The Hollywood icon bought it in 1954, using it the next year as a movie set for Blood Alley. After its brush with fame, the boat changed hands and identities several times, hosting river cruises and fine dining experiences under names like Mansion Belle. But disaster struck in the late 1990s when a fire gutted much of the ship. Lacking funds for repairs, the owners hauled the Spirit ashore, where she's been sitting ever since, rusting into the landscape. Once a proud working vessel and movie star, today the Spirit of Sacramento is a hollow shell of memories, forgotten, but somehow still holding on. So, not everything is for eternity. Number 8. Hearthstone Castle, Connecticut. Well, Hearthstone Castle looks like it's been standing for hundreds of years in rural England, but it actually sits hidden in Danbury, Connecticut. Built in 1896 by photographer E. Starr Sanford as a lavish summer retreat, it was crafted with medieval flair, 9 bedrooms, a sprawling library, a ballroom, and even a billiard room. Sanford had a taste for the finer things. He brought wood from Italy to complement the local stonework. Oddly enough, he sold it just 5 years later, setting off a string of ownership changes until Charles Darling Parks renamed it Hearthstone, honoring the 8 grand fireplaces inside. The Parks family kept it for generations, but by 1985, the city of Danbury took ownership. Since then, it's sat empty, slowly succumbing to vandalism and time. The towering stone walls and ghostly windows hint at what once was, a castle built not just for looks, but for dreams that faded faster than anyone could have guessed. All right, now let's talk about Number 7. Buzzluja Monument. High in the mountains of Bulgaria, this monument looms like a UFO stranded on Earth. Built during the height of Bulgaria's communist era, this alien-looking structure once stood as a proud symbol of socialist ideals. Inside, soaring mosaics celebrated workers, soldiers, and the endless promise of revolution. But revolutions, like buildings, crack with time. When communism collapsed in 1989, the Buzzluja Monument was left to rot. Vandals smashed its stained glass windows. Rain and snow battered the concrete shell. What remains today is both eerie and magnificent, a concrete ghost marooned on a lonely peak. The grand meeting hall now echoes with wind instead of speeches, and broken red stars lie shattered on the floor. Though nature and decay have done their worst, Buzzluja refuses to vanish. It stands battered but defiant, a stubborn reminder of dreams once shouted from rooftops, now whispered through broken stone. Number 6. Eerie Canal Village. Eerie Canal Village in Rome, New York, was meant to bring the 19th century back to life, not slowly collapse into its own forgotten history. Built during the 1970s, the village wasn't a relic from Canal days. It was a tribute, a kind of living museum celebrating America's canal era before the dominance of railroads and cars. Visitors could once ride a mule-drawn boat, step inside a historic church, visit a replica schoolhouse, and even watch a blacksmith at work. But by the late 1990s, attendance numbers had dropped too low to sustain it. Without enough visitors to cover costs, the village shut down, leaving behind aging structures and empty spaces that once buzzed with reenactments and laughter. The old bridge connecting it across the canal has decayed almost beyond use, cutting it off even further. Today, Eerie Canal Village sits in silence, a man-made memory of a memory slowly slipping away with each single passing season. Number 5. Tro Temple. Hidden in the forests of Siem Reap, Cambodia, Tro Temple feels like something pulled straight from a myth. Built in 1186 by King Jayavarman VII as a Buddhist monastery, it was crafted without mortar, just stones carefully stacked and balanced. Over the centuries, the jungle pressed in. Massive tree roots wrapped around the temple's stone blocks, not tearing it apart but holding it together in a strange, silent embrace. Despite its age, much of Tro still stands, stubborn and beautiful. When French explorers stumbled across it in the early 1900s, it had already been swallowed by nature. Inside, carvings tell stories long forgotten, including one peculiar detail, a clear depiction of a stegosaurus etched into the wall, centuries before dinosaurs were even officially discovered. Historians are still scratching their heads over it. Whether it's coincidence, imagination, or something weirder, Tro stands today as a stunning reminder of how human ambition and wild nature can fuse into something timeless. Number 4. Smith Mansion. Tucked into the rugged landscape of Cody, Wyoming, the Smith Mansion rises like a wooden puzzle against the sky, all odd angles, staircases to nowhere, and towering balconies. It was never supposed to look this way. Lee Smith, an engineer with a restless spirit, began building his dream home for his family, but once he started, he couldn't stop. New additions sprang up spontaneously, each new piece wilder than the last. His wife eventually had enough of the endless construction chaos and left, but Lee stayed, adding structure after structure until the house became almost otherworldly. Tragically, Smith died in 1992 after falling during construction. Today, the mansion still stands, battered by time and Wyoming's brutal winters. Some locals swap ghost stories about the place, others just shake their heads at the eccentric ambition it represents. Lee's daughter, Sunny Smith Larson, has been working to preserve her father's strange masterpiece, determined to keep this one-of-a-kind monument to obsession standing tall. Number 3. Palace of the Golden Orbs. Amid the suburban sprawl of Houston, Texas, the Palace of the Golden Orbs looks like a palace dropped from another world. Its golden domes and Middle Eastern architectural style seem wildly out of place, surrounded by strip malls and apartment complexes. Commissioned by Chi Fan Wong in 1999, the palace was never finished. Wang bought the land and poured her dreams into the project. But fate had other plans. Within 2 years, her right to stay in the United States was revoked, forcing her deportation and leaving the palace frozen mid-construction. Since then, the property has sat abandoned, untouched, and unsold. Its strange beauty draws curious onlookers but no serious offers. Over time, the Palace of the Golden Orbs has become a symbol of ambition left unrealized, a monument to plans cut short not by lack of vision, but by the cold hand of bureaucracy. It's likely to remain a ghostly oddity in Houston's skyline for many more years. Number 2. Kakott. In the wild heart of Alaska, the ghost town of Kakott stands as a weather-beaten witness to a dream gone dry. Copper was found here in the early 1900s, and soon after, a booming mining town sprang up almost overnight. Kakott thrived with its own hospital, school, bar, and even a dedicated railroad to keep the copper moving. For nearly 30 years, fortunes were made and lives were built on the bright promise of the earth below. Then, as quickly as it had risen, it all collapsed. By 1938, the copper ran out. The company pulled the plug, the trains stopped running, and the workers packed up what they could carry and left. Today, Kakott's buildings still cling to the Alaskan wilderness, some preserved as historic landmarks, others slowly being torn apart by time and the elements. It's quiet now. No trains, no laughter, no pickaxes ringing against rock, just the eerie echo of a community that lived fast and disappeared even faster. Number 1. Sanzzi Pod City. Well, just look at them. In Taiwan's Sanzzi Pod City, construction started with wild ambition in 1978 and ended in disaster. Developers blamed poor sales on pricing issues, but locals knew better. They whispered about angry spirits. The site was believed to have been built over an old Dutch graveyard, stirring unrest among the dead. Making things worse, workers demolished a concrete dragon, a symbol of protection and luck in Taiwanese culture, just to make room for the pod homes. After that, accidents haunted the site, some fatal. Fear spread faster than cement could dry. Officially, it was a bad business move. Unofficially, many believed Sanzzi Pod City was cursed from the start. Intended as a luxury resort for American soldiers and Taiwan's wealthy elite, it now stands as a skeletal relic of dreams that never got off the ground. Abandoned and eerie, the strange UFO-shaped buildings remain a physical reminder that sometimes bad energy is stronger than blueprints. What do you think about this thing? Well, let us know, and we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.